The clock strikes midnight, January 1st. Zohran Mamdani will officially become New York City's newest mayor. And who will be swearing in the Democrat socialist? It will be New York Attorney General Letitia James. But that's not all, folks. Mamdani will have a second and public swearing-in ceremony on New Year's Day. Another prominent Democrat, Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders. Senator Sanders will deliver the oath of office to Mamdani at City Hall. Quite the photo op for them. So meanwhile, the Anti-Defamation League is out with a troubling report about Mamdani's entire transition team. Now, the ADL says, quote, dozens of individuals on his transition team have a history of supporting notorious anti-Semitic figures, openly supporting Hamas and its October 7th attack, celebrating calls for violence against Jews, downplaying the threat of anti-Semitism, and more. The ADL also providing some examples of what members of Mamdani's transition team have said. Quote, Zionism is racism. Another member of the transition team condemned Israel as, quote, ideologically founded on Jewish supremacy. Another said, quote, Zionists are worse than the Inquisition, and the Nazi Zionists are never Jews, end quote. And by the way, Zionism is a belief that Jewish people live in their ancestral homeland. To discuss this and more, I'm pleased to bring in our next panel. Newsmax contributor, political strategist Luke Ball joining us today, and he is the president and executive editor over at the Daily Signal. Rob Bluey. Guys, it's great to see you. Mamdani was asked about the report on Monday. Here's his response.
There's no tolerance for anti-Semitism. And also, when we're thinking about critiques of Zionism and different forms of political expression, as much of what this report focuses on, there's a wide variety of political opinion, even within our own 400-plus transition committee, on the Israeli government and its conduct.
You know, words are cheap. Actions mean a lot. I'll start with you, Luke. There's the largest population of Jewish people outside of Israel that he will preside over just days from now, officially as mayor.
I've heard a lot of Democrats refer to this splinter inside their own party as diversity, the individuals who say that Israel is an oppressor and then have anti-Semitic comments going back decades in their social media posts or verbal statements somewhere in a campaign speech. That's not diversity. That is a cancer. And if the Democrats don't radically call that out, then they are going to be on the trash heap of history. But in the meantime, I am just terrified as to the direction that party is going to go, because if we have two mainstream parties in the United States, and the energy and the movement is behind this sect of the Democrat Party with Mamdani, and you have individuals lining up behind him in order to swear him in and participate actively in his inauguration, that's deeply troubling to me. Do they want to be the party of JFK or the party of the USSR? If they don't call this out, or if they just stay silent completely throughout this whole process, then they are complicit in whatever comes next, and I shudder to think what that is.
Yeah, Rob, I mean, it's a great point, because the Democrats, they're terrified of these progressives. They're terrified of these Mamdani, candidates, and they seem to be cropping up everywhere now. So if they're not going to address it, it seems like the concern is it will persist and, shockingly, maybe even grow.
It certainly will. I think that is the big thing that we need to watch in 2026. The Democrats have high hopes for retaking the House of Representatives and the U.S. Senate. They are not going to be able to do that if they nominate the far left of their party. I'm sorry, but independent voters in this country will not go for those policies. I think it's one thing in New York, where you have a liberal population to begin with, but all across the rest of this country, they are not interested in growing the size of government, taking away our personal freedoms, and supporting this anti-Semitic language that you hear from so many of Mamdani's advisors. It's just unacceptable. I thought his response was terrible. He does not seem prepared to address the concerns that are cropping up, even as he awaits just a week away taking office as the mayor of New York City. So troubling signs ahead. I think if you're a New Yorker, you have good reason to be looking at another state maybe to move.
Yeah. The exodus would continue. And you're right, then they say it's diversity. I hear a lot when the Democrats are pressed, which is very rare. They say, oh, we're a big tent party. We'll see how long that narrative can go. Let's talk about Jimmy Kimmel. You know, for a long time, this was just sort of another propaganda channel for the left, not really selling to late night viewers anymore. Stephen Colbert's on his way out. So where's Jimmy Kimmel going? I think this is why he's now messaging over to the UK. So he has a Christmas message, and of course it's filled with a lot of hate for President Trump. 'Tis the season for more Trump derangement syndrome. Kimmel in his own words here.
I honestly have no idea what's going on over there. I do know what's going on over here, though. And I can tell you that from a fascism perspective, this has been a really great year. Tyranny is booming over here. Maybe you're thinking, oh, a government silencing its critics is something that happens in places like Russia or North Korea or LA, not the UK. Well, that's what we thought. And now we've got King Donnie VIII calling for executions.
I mean, I don't know what this whole masterpiece theater, look is. I'm going to start with you, Rob. Doesn't he understand that free speech is actually something in the UK that's pretty much under attack? There's concerns. You have comedians, like an Irish comedian who posts something in international air on a plane and gets arrested at Heathrow because he was anti-trans. Kimmel's lost his mind, I think.
That's right. I mean, nowhere in the world do the people enjoy greater freedom of speech than the United States of America. He should appreciate that. And you're absolutely correct, Bianca, that in the United Kingdom, speaking out on any host of issues can land you in trouble or arrested. I mean, it is quite concerning what we've seen, and I'm glad that President Trump and Vice President Vance have addressed that directly with the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. We'll see if anything changes. I'm not optimistic about it, but Jimmy Kimmel doesn't really, I think, understand really what's at stake here. I mean, he is somebody who has benefited from, obviously, a very generous network, despite his poor ratings, being allowed to continue and as you indicated, spout this Trump derangement syndrome that he seems to be infected with. And I don't know ultimately if he'll survive in the coming year. I think he's bought himself some time, but I don't think the American people are particularly interested in his brand of comedy anymore.
I don't think so either. It's just strange. At one point, too, he's insulting his own audience, Luke. He says something to the effect of, we're not smart, we're Americans. Like, maybe he should go with Rosie and just go to Ireland. I mean, they'd probably still complain like she does. But, just at some point, I think his audience has to say, whoa, 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 are you talking about us? I mean, talking down to the people that he wants to tune in, that right there is a fatal error as well.
Well, nearly everyone that said if Trump got elected the first time and then said it again the second time and said, if he gets elected, I'm moving overseas or I'm leaving the United States, didn't do it. They stayed here in the United States. They said it was going to be tyranny. It was going to be some sort of fascist government. It wasn't. It was just not the government that they wanted. That's quite the opposite of fascism. And if Jimmy Kimmel were really under a totalitarian or authoritarian government, he would not have been on his show at all during the Trump administration. This was strictly a business decision because the tens of people, I said tens of people who were tuning into his show are probably the only ones who are propping up those network ratings. So as we start to look to the future and see what's next for him, it's probably launching a podcast and fading into oblivion.
We shall see. Real quick, final topic. I'll kick it over to you, Rob. DOJ has more Epstein files. They got some volunteers even to work during the holidays because there is a deadline. And, of course, the left will have a tizzy, and they're going to talk impeachment if they don't get them out on time. What's your take as we go into 2026, the story that is supposed to be about the victims, yet seems to be completely political when you talk to Democrats?
Oh, the Democrats are absolutely going to make it political. But as we have seen so far, the only person that it's embarrassing are the Democrats, because Bill Clinton and the images that have come out with him and the role that prominent Democrats have played with Jeffrey Epstein seems to be more embarrassing to their own party than it is to Donald Trump or anybody else. I give credit to the Department of Justice. They keep discovering more files, or not necessarily even DOJ discovering them, but others who are involved in the case are turning them over to DOJ. So it is a lot of work because they have to go through and make sure that the victims are protected. Ultimately, this comes down to making sure that the victims get justice in this case, and they're taking every step possible, Bianca, to make sure that that's what takes place over the course of the next few weeks.
That's right. All right, good to see you both. Rob, Luke, Happy New Year's to you both.
Happy New Year.
Thank you.